Welcome back to Unstoppable Mind today, where we journey together through the deepest valleys of despair to find hope again. Meet James, a man who felt like the weight of the entire world was crushing down upon his weary shoulders. It started with his wife's sudden illness, a diagnosis that drained their savings and turned their happy home into a hospital. Then came the job loss, leaving him without an income exactly when he needed financial stability the most in life. He felt like a failure, unable to provide for his family, walking through the storm with no direction or purpose. The final blow struck hard when a phone call delivered the news that his beloved mother had passed away suddenly. Standing over her fresh grave, James felt something inside him shatter into a million pieces that could never be fixed. He knelt on the hard floor, begging for a sign, for relief, for any indication that he was not alone. But the only answer he received was silence, a heavy and suffocating silence that made him question everything he believed. He decided that his faith was a lie, that his prayers were just words vanishing into a cold, empty void. Needing to escape his suffocating reality, James wandered aimlessly until he found himself near an old, quiet monastery garden. Drawn by a strange pull, he entered the gates and saw an old monk tending to the earth with care. This was Monk Thomas, a man who seemed to carry the stillness of the mountains and the wisdom of ages. James stood there, his anger bubbling to the surface, demanding to know why the universe was so cruel and silent. The monk did not speak immediately, but simply invited James to sit and observe the 4 different plots of land. James unleashed his grief, shouting that he had prayed for help but received absolutely nothing in return for his faith. Thomas listened until James had no more words left. Then he pointed to the first plot of bare, brown soil. "Look at this first plot," Thomas said softly. "To your eyes it looks empty, dead, and abandoned by the gardener. But beneath the surface a miracle is happening. The seed is breaking open, and roots are reaching into the dark. This is the invisible stage. Just because you cannot see the growth does not mean that work is not happening. God often does his most important work in the dark, strengthening your roots so you can survive the coming storms. You feel ignored because you see no leaves. But without this time in the dark, the plant would surely die." They moved to the second plot. Here the ground was cracked, showing the intense struggle of life pushing through resistance. This is the breakthrough stage. The sprout must push against the heavy weight of the soil to find the light. It feels like the world is against you, pressing down on you. But this pressure is actually building your strength. If I removed the dirt for the plant, it would be too weak. It needs the resistance to become strong. Your pain is not a punishment, James. It is the heavy soil that you must push through to truly rise. James took a deep breath, realizing that his struggle might have a purpose that he simply could not see yet. The third plot was full of tall, green plants. They looked healthy and vibrant, yet there were no flowers anywhere. "This is the stage of patience," Thomas explained. "The plant is big, but it is not yet ready to bloom." Many people give up here. They see the green leaves but get frustrated because they do not see the prize. But the plant is gathering energy. It is building the structure needed to support the heavy weight of the flowers. You have been impatient, wanting the bloom before the branches were strong enough to hold it without breaking under pressure. Waiting is not wasted time. It is active preparation. You are being built to sustain the blessings that are coming. Finally, they reached the 4th plot. It was a breathtaking explosion of colors, scents, and life in full glory. This is the blooming stage. It took 5 months of rain, darkness, and struggle to reach this single beautiful moment. If the seed had given up in the dark or the sprout stopped pushing, this beauty would never have existed. God's silence was not his absence, James. He was tending to your soil, preparing you for a season of harvest. James realized that his suffering was not a denial of his prayers, but the very process of answering them. We all move through these plots. Sometimes we are in the dark, sometimes we struggle, and sometimes we must wait. Faith is trusting that the gardener knows what he is doing, even when we cannot see his hands working. James left the garden that day, not with a miracle in his pocket, but with a miracle in his perspective. He returned to his life with a new understanding. He stopped looking for instant fixes and started tending his roots. He sat by his wife's side, not with despair, but with the quiet strength of a tree that has deep roots. He applied for jobs, knowing that every rejection was just the soil resistance needed to make his eventual success stronger. He visited his mother's grave and thanked her, knowing she was part of the light that was helping him grow. Days turned into weeks. The silence of God no longer frightened him. He saw it as the necessary time for growth. Then the first bud appeared. His wife's health improved, and she was finally able to come home to their family. Then came the call for a new job, one that offered not just money, but a purpose he truly loved. He walked into that interview not as a desperate man, but as someone who had been tested and refined by fire. He secured the position, and his life began to bloom in ways he could never have imagined during the storm. Laughter returned to his home. The season of winter had passed, and the season of spring had finally arrived. James returned to the garden to thank the monk, but he found Thomas simply smiling, tending to a new patch. "You see," Thomas said, "the flower was always there in the seed. It just needed time and trust to emerge. Your faith is not about manipulating God to do what you want. It is about trusting his timing and process. We are all seeds in the great garden of life. Do not curse the darkness that is helping you grow." Perhaps you are watching this and you feel like you are buried. You feel the weight of the dirt above. I am here to tell you that you are not being buried. You are being planted. There is a massive difference. James learned that the view from the mountaintop is only beautiful because of the difficult climb it took to get there. Your blooming season is coming. It is written in your destiny just as the flower is written in the seed. Now, James uses his strength to help others who are still in the dark, telling them about the invisible stage. He knows that true strength isn't about never falling, but about knowing that the fall is part of the rise. He stopped asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and started asking, "What is this trying to teach me now?" Every flower he sees now reminds him of the lesson. Every dark night reminds him of the roots growing deep. The fog of his life has lifted, not because the problems vanished, but because his vision became clear and focused. When you trust the process, you stop fighting the wind and start using it to soar higher than before. The monk knew that the greatest harvest was not the flowers in the garden, but the faith restored in a soul. James wrote down the 4 stages, promising to remind himself of them whenever the next winter of life approached. He understood that silence is a canvas where faith paints its masterpiece, if only we have the patience to wait. This wisdom became a legacy, a torch of light that he carried to guide others through their own dark tunnels. Remember, if you are in a dry season, do not despair. Rain is gathering in the clouds just for you. Do not fear the storms. They are simply the delivery system for the water that your thirsty roots desperately need. Embrace the struggle. Push against the dirt. It is the only way you will ever find out how strong you are. The man who looks back at you in the mirror is being crafted into a masterpiece by the hands of God. Trust the timing. The universe is never late, and it is never early. It is always exactly on time. Peace is not the absence of trouble. Peace is the presence of faith in the midst of the trouble. Let your faith be like these seeds, carried by the wind to places you have not yet even dreamed of. You never know who needs to see your bloom. Your victory over darkness might be the key to someone else's survival. So, keep growing. Keep pushing. Keep believing. The world needs the flower that only you can bring to life. From the soil to the sprout, from the leaves to the flower, every step is a necessary part of you. Be like the great tree. The deeper the roots go into the dark, the higher the branches reach for the light. Your season of silence is ending. I can feel the ground shaking with the movement of your coming breakthrough. Let the waves crash. Let the wind blow. You are anchored in something stronger than the circumstances of this world. You are unstoppable, not because you have no pain, but because your pain has been transformed into a holy power. The rain that you thought would drown you has only come to wash you clean and make you grow new. James found that the best way to heal his own heart was to help heal the hearts of those around him. Love is the fertilizer that makes even the driest soil capable of producing the most beautiful and unexpected miracles. They planted their own garden, a reminder that every day is a chance to start a new cycle of growth. Water your dreams with faith, protect them with patience, and watch how the universe conspires to make them bloom. Even in the darkest night, the stars are there. You just need to look up to see the light shining. Make a wish, but back it up with the work of the roots. Faith without works is like a seed without soil. Discipline is the gardener that ensures the weeds do not choke out the flowers you are trying so hard to grow. Joy is found in the small moments. It is the sunlight that feeds the plant every single day of its life. Her smile was the flower he had waited for. It was worth every second of the darkness he had endured. He drove through the city, seeing potential everywhere. Every person he passed was a seed waiting for their time. Even concrete cannot stop a seed that is determined to rise. Nothing can stop a mind that is determined to believe. Capture these moments. They are reminders from God that life always finds a way, no matter how hard the surface. Surround yourself with reminders of growth. Your environment shapes your mind just as the soil shapes the roots. He shared the story with his colleague. One seed of wisdom was now being planted in another person's heart. This is how we change the world. Not by force, but by planting seeds of hope in the gardens of others. James became a leader, not because he was bossy, but because he knew how to nurture the potential in everyone. True leadership is gardening. It is about creating the right conditions for everyone around you to bloom and succeed. The sky is the limit when your roots are deep. There is no storm that can topple a man of faith. He looked back at his past, not with regret, but with gratitude. Every tragedy was a teacher in disguise. He wrote to Thomas, "Father, the flowers are blooming here too. Thank you for teaching me how to wait." The monk smiled, knowing that his work was done. Another soul had graduated from the school of patience and faith, and so the cycle continues. New seeds are planted, new struggles begin, and new miracles are waiting to be born. We are all part of this magnificent garden called Earth. We are all growing, changing, and evolving together in the light. Trust the process. Trust the silence. Trust the dark. It is all conspiring to bring you to your highest good. Years later, James looked back on a life full of harvests. He had weathered many storms, but he never lost hope. His legacy was not just his success, but the faith he planted in the hearts of his children and grandchildren. Hold on to faith. It is the only thing that remains when everything else fades away. It is the eternal seed. The candle you thought was extinguished was never out. It was just waiting for the right breath to flare up again. You, watching this right now. You are in the garden. Which plot are you standing in today? Can you identify it? Are you invisible? Are you struggling? Are you waiting? Or are you blooming? Wherever you are, it is okay. You are exactly where you need to be. Do not rush the season. Do not curse the lesson. Just keep growing. The rainbow only comes after the rain. Your promise is waiting for you on the other side of this storm. Keep your face to the sunshine and you cannot see a shadow. Be like the sunflower, always seeking the light. Go forward with courage. Your roots are deep, your stem is strong, and your flower is ready to open wide. Thank you for walking this path with James. Remember, the silence is not empty. It is full of answers. This is Unstoppable Mind today. If this story touched your roots, please share it to help someone else bloom.